The story begins with a young woman driving 16 miles north of Los Angeles. She seems to be enjoying the ride with steep cliffs on either side. Suddenly, a landslide strikes, causing her car to swerve and plummet over the edge of a deep ravine. Miraculously, she survives because her car becomes wedged between some rocks. Summoning her last bit of strength, she calls 911. Soon after, Ray, a Los Angeles Fire Department helicopter rescue pilot, arrives with his team. Seeing no way to fly the helicopter into the narrow space, Ray makes a daring move. He tilts the aircraft sideways into the ravine, holding it steady while a crew member is lowered to rescue the girl. Their plan is to airlift the entire car using a double lift system. But the plan goes wrong when the rescuer gets trapped as the car shifts from its rocky perch. Ray is forced to intervene. After securing the girl, they make a tough call and cut the line, sending the car crashing to the bottom of the gorge. The rescue mission, though harrowing, is ultimately a success. Meanwhile, in a California city, a leading seismologist, Dr. Lawrence, is giving a lecture about history's most devastating earthquakes and the catastrophic tsunamis they can trigger. He cites the largest quake ever recorded in North America, the 1964 Alaska earthquake, a magnitude 9.1 event. The ground shook for 5 straight minutes, he explains. Its destructive power was equivalent to 10 million Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs. Lawrence stresses that this scale of destruction is exactly why their research to predict such events is so vital. Ray, fresh off his mission, plans a few days of vacation with his college-bound daughter, Blake. At the same time, Dr. Kim informs Dr. Lawrence that in the last 24 hours, they've detected a cluster of low-level tremors near the Hoover Dam. They decide to go investigate on-site to test their theories. Upon arrival, Kim enters the dam to monitor magnetic pulses. Their predictive model seems to be paying off as they find a pattern. But suddenly, the pulse readings spike, followed by a massive earthquake that jumps from a 2.1 to a 7.1 in an instant. Dr. Lawrence radios Kim, yelling for him to get out immediately. The powerful quake causes massive cracks to form in the dam, sending panicked citizens running for their lives. Dr. Lawrence helps guide the evacuation. Dr. Kim makes it out but spots a terrified little girl and can't leave her behind. In the final moments, Dr. Lawrence, who was waiting for them, screams for Kim to hurry. The little girl is saved, but tragically, Dr. Kim becomes trapped in the collapsing debris and is lost. Dr. Lawrence can only stand in stunned disbelief, watching his friend be swept away as the dam fails. Back with Ray, he receives a message canceling his leave due to a sudden emergency. He visits his daughter at the home of his ex-wife, Emma. He hopes to take Blake to dinner, but she already has plans with Emma's new husband, Daniel. Ray is also hurt to learn from Blake that Emma and Daniel are planning to move out of the city, which will make seeing his daughter much harder. The next day at work, Ray and his crew catch the news on TV about the major earthquake that hit the Hoover Dam. On a private plane, Daniel makes casual conversation with Blake, assuring her he has no intention of coming between her and her real father. Daniel is a wealthy real estate mogul who owns the tallest and strongest skyscraper in San Francisco. Daniel takes Blake to visit one of his buildings, where she meets a young man named Ben. A recent engineering graduate, Ben is there interviewing for a job at Daniel's company. Meanwhile, a grieving Dr. Lawrence is asked to do a live TV interview about the previous day's quake. Mid-interview, his colleague urgently interrupts. They've detected major tectonic plate movement along the entire San Andreas fault. The active fault line stretches from Los Angeles all the way to the ocean near San Francisco. Their research indicates this impending megaquake has the terrifying potential to trigger a massive tsunami. Back at the skyscraper, Blake is chatting with Ben when his younger brother, Ali, shows up. They're visiting from England and plan to sightsee after Ben's interview. In Los Angeles, Emma is having lunch with Daniel's sister, Susan. During their meal, Ray calls Emma to apologize for his behavior the day before. As they talk, the table begins to shake violently, followed by a massive earthquake. Emma and the other patrons panic, scrambling for cover. From his helicopter, Ray witnesses the quake ravaging Los Angeles from above. He immediately radios Emma, demanding her location so he can pick her up, instructing her to get to the roof and bring as many people as she can. Dr. Lawrence's office in LA is also hit. As they take cover under desks, he reminds his team that Caltech's Earthquake Research Center is one of the safest buildings, specially engineered to withstand tremors. A colleague reports the quake's magnitude has just jumped from 6.5 to a staggering 8.5 and is now traveling north towards San Francisco. In San Francisco, Daniel finds Blake to take her home. They head to the parking garage, but as they're about to leave, the ground begins to violently tremble. The quake has arrived. Daniel orders his driver to get out, but the massive quake's destruction traps them inside. Blake's leg becomes pinned by the front seat, and she can't get out of the limo. Daniel decides to run upstairs for help, but Blake pleads with him not to leave her. He insists, feeling he has no other choice to save her. People are running in panic all around him. Daniel manages to tell a security guard about a girl trapped below before another powerful aftershock hits, disorienting and paralyzing him with fear. Ben, who is still nearby, hears Daniel's plea and calls out to him for confirmation, but a shell-shocked Daniel doesn't respond. From the distance, Ben hears a girl's voice crying for help from the garage level. From his helicopter, Ray watches in horror as the earthquake rips through Los Angeles with immense destructive force, toppling tall buildings one after another. Back in LA, Emma tries to get Susan to safety, but in the chaos, Susan takes a wrong step and falls to her death. Fighting through the devastation, Emma finally makes it to the roof. Just as Ray arrives to rescue her, they immediately take off to find safety. Meanwhile, trapped in the crushed limo, Blake manages to call both her parents, desperately telling them what happened before the signal cuts out. Ray curses Daniel for leaving his daughter behind. He and Emma now share a single, determined goal. They will rescue their daughter themselves. In that critical moment, Ben and Ollie arrive to save Blake. Blake warns them they have to get out because the building is going to collapse. Ben and Ollie are determined not to leave her. They try to lift the massive beam pinning the car, but it's too heavy. Thinking fast, Ben grabs a jack from the car's trunk. It works, lifting the beam enough to take the pressure off, but Blake's leg is still trapped. The jack is at its maximum height, so Ben has another idea. He deflates the car's tires, lowering the chassis. It works, and Blake is finally freed. Aftershocks continue to rock the city. They rush out of the building, searching for safety. The streets are pure chaos. People are running in panic as glass rains down from skyscrapers and more buildings threaten to fall. Ben leads them to a safer spot. Once there, Blake wants to call her parents, but Ben tells her the cell networks are down. Blake insists she knows a way. They find a Chinatown electronics shop to get what they need. Meanwhile, Dr. Lawrence and his team prepare for an emergency broadcast. The quake isn't over. A bigger one is coming, and they need to warn people in its path to save lives. At the electronics shop, Blake finds an old rotary phone that doesn't need external power and connects it to a phone line. She succeeds in calling her parents and telling them her location. Ray instructs her to get to high ground so his helicopter can reach her. Ben and Ollie then take their turn calling their family. On the way, the helicopter Ray is flying develops mechanical trouble, forcing a crash landing. Now they have to continue on the ground. They commandeer a car, but just 20 minutes into their drive, they're forced to stop. A massive fissure has split the earth open, the San Andreas Fault itself. The ground has literally ripped apart, severing all land routes. Nearby, Ray meets an elderly couple whose car has broken down. They tell him there's a long, mountainous detour, but Ray doesn't have that kind of time. In a stroke of luck, the old man has a small plane, and Ray has a working car. They strike a perfect trade in the middle of the chaos. The plane for the car. The couple needs to drive into the mountains to find their son. Meanwhile, Blake looks out at a cityscape of total ruin. Their journey is halted when Ben hesitates about going to the high ground to wait for Blake's dad. As they seem to be the only ones heading that way, Ollie convinces his brother that they need to stick with Blake. Ray and Emma finally reach the area near Blake's location but find the airport completely destroyed, with no place to land. They make a desperate decision to jump. Emma is terrified, having never skydived before. Ray calms her, saying they'll do a tandem jump. They bail out, letting the plane run out of fuel and crash into the Pacific. Ray expertly lands them safely in a stadium. Elsewhere, Dr. Lawrence is relieved they managed to broadcast the evacuation warning. But suddenly, another, larger aftershock hits. Blake and her friends panic as the new quake strikes, toppling more buildings and power lines onto the street. Ben is injured when falling glass pierces his leg. At the stadium, Ray quickly directs survivors to safer spots before continuing his desperate search for his daughter. Emma worries, seeing the road to the hill is completely blocked by rubble. Ray suggests a new plan. They'll take a detour by water using a speedboat. Back with Blake, she ties a tourniquet on Ben's leg and removes the glass, knowing walking on it would make the injury worse. Supported by Blake and Ollie, Ben limps forward. Taking the water route, Ray is disheartened to see the hill where they were supposed to meet Blake engulfed in a long burning fire. He fears she's moved to a plan B. Suddenly, the water around his boat begins to churn and recede drastically. The dreaded tsunami is coming. Instead of fleeing, Ray guns the engine, aiming to outrun the massive wave before it crashes into the Golden Gate Bridge. Daniel, who is on the bridge, is tragically crushed by a falling shipping container. The colossal wave surges past the bridge and floods deep into the city. Blake and the others try to climb a tall building, but they run out of time. The tsunami wave crashes into them. They fight for their lives, scrambling for higher ground. The building Blake is in begins to collapse but is caught and held up by a sturdier structure behind it. Miraculously, they all reunite. Ben warns that the water will keep rising. They need to get even higher. Ray navigates his boat through the submerged city streets, scanning desperately for any sign of his daughter. Meanwhile, Blake's group makes it to a higher, safer floor. From their vantage point, they spot Ray and Emma in the boat below. They scream, but their voices are lost in the chaos. Remembering the laser pointer from the electronics shop, Blake uses it to signal them. Emma sees the flashing red dot and points it out to Ray. They look up and see their daughter, but suddenly the building groans and shifts. The floor Blake is on floods again as the structure continues to fail. Ollie is pulled to safety by Ben. As Ben turns to save Blake, a new surge of seawater cuts off the doorway, trapping Blake on the lower, flooding level. Blake panics, trapped with no exit. Ray sees her through a window but can't reach her. In a terrifying moment, the building collapses further, forcing Ben and Ollie to climb even higher. Blake, losing hope, begins to give up. Just then, Ray smashes through a window with the boat and pulls Blake to safety.
Hey, Blake. Hurry, honey.
The building is crumbling around them. Emma, seeing her daughter in peril, rams the boat forward to widen the escape route. They speed out of the disintegrating building at full throttle just as it completely collapses behind them. In the boat, Blake is unconscious. Ray frantically performs CPR while Ben and Ollie watch, terrified. Finally, Blake coughs and takes a breath, waking up to the overwhelming relief of everyone around her. Authorities in San Francisco later credit the local scientists' early warnings with saving countless lives from the earthquake and tsunami. Recovery efforts begin, supported by thousands of volunteers. For now, Ray, Ben, and the others can only look out at their shattered city. But in their eyes is a shared determination. They will rebuild.